they have a couple cocktails, and Leah gets up, and she says, "Here's what she said." She says, "Here's to the chief. He loves the young pussy, but he always comes home to me."
That's classic.
Honest to God.
Wow.
I thought Mary Gagne was going to have a stroke right there. She couldn't. She grabbed her throat. It was, and I looked and I thought, oh my God.
Wow.
Peter said, "Shut up, woman."
Were you surprised when The Rock first came out that fans couldn't stand him, or I mean, he basically came out like, his background. He had the tribal necklace going, and they hated him.
Sure. Well, you know what? He was sort of in a time when I wasn't really into wrestling, watching it, and for what he did, and his whole package was superlative. Personally, I didn't think he could work that well in the ring. I thought he was a little too determined. I mean, sort of. I mean,
ultimately, you didn't think he was polished? I mean, ultimately, in the end, at least for what he was trying to accomplish in the ring. I thought he was a great in-ring storyteller. I mean, he's not Bret Hart, obviously. And he's not you, obviously. It's a different kind of skill set. You know what I mean? But do you think he was at least...
That's true, but for what he did, he was excellent.
Yeah.
I just thought that... I don't know. I think it was a little... too predictable, but then all those guys that made millions of dollars were all predictable.
They've all got that formula, whatever it is. It's a certain set of circumstances they do every match.
So Jim, what are you doing? Like, well, we'll talk about that on the show. But what are you watching on TV nowadays? You watching on Netflix? You got HBO Max? What do you got going on?
I'm watching I've been turning it back and forth between March Madness basketball and also Frozen Four hockey. I've always been a big hockey fan, being in Minnesota. And the Gophers are playing tomorrow night, and tonight it's Notre Dame and North Dakota. It's tied up 1-1, and then I'm trying to think of the second game. It's UMass Lowell against I think it's Denver. So I love hockey. Hockey, is great. State of Minnesota is second to none. I mean, it's just incredible. We had 20,000 people for 8 games in a row a couple weeks ago for the state high school championship. And they sold out the XL Center where the Wild play, and they just they do it yearly. you can't get tickets.
Is the community still stung over the North Stars leaving all those years ago? Because I thought the Minnesota North Stars never should have left. I mean, what happened?
They shouldn't have.
What is that?
That was. Well, I think. If the Wild could ever win a doggone second slot in the playoffs, and now they got that Mark Fleury from the Chicago White Sox or Chicago Blackhawks,
right?
Their goaltender,
right?
So and they put up a couple more pieces together, so I think they're going to make a big run this year. But that was tragic with the North Stars. I knew a number of players, and my next door neighbor was actually the head of their publicity for years. His name was Dick Dillman. And we used to go down and watch the North Stars all the time. And, all of a sudden this Green just decides to leave and goes to Dallas. And the people were just, and it took us, 20-some years to get a franchise back.
Right. And you had to watch Dallas win a Stanley Cup.
Oh, God.
And the people in Buffalo will tell you to this day that they shouldn't have won that Stanley Cup. So that's a whole, as you know, the Brett Hull classic goal.
Yeah, I tell you that Buffalo, there was another cold city.
Yeah.
Woof.
Yeah. You know what's weird though? Wow, I just threw it. All right, you're not going to like this, but I have to. Buffalo, Minnesota, great football teams. Yeah.
0-4.
There you go. Yeah, what's up with that? That makes no. And I happen to like the Bills very much. I suffered 4 years in a row. Not directly. I'm a Jet fan first, but I felt for
You're
them.
a Bills fan? When did that happen?
All I'm telling you is that I rooted for the Bills. I hate that. First of all, the Dallas Cowboys. Satan could be playing the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm rooting for Satan. Okay, let me get that out of the way. All right. And the other two, being a Jet fan, I was not rooting for the Giants to win the Super Bowl. Right? Logically so far, Cowboys boo, Giants boo if you're a Jet fan. And what was the other team? There was one other team. Come on. Who did the Bills lose to?
Bills?
There was one other team.
I didn't even watch football this
Come on,
year,
Jim.
dude.
You know this. They lost 2 to the Cowboys. They lost to the Giants. Rippins, Redskins. There we go.
Yes.
I got them all now. Yeah. I rooted for the Bills every year. Went. It's terrible.
Well, during the Vikings 0-4, we used to have Super Bowl parties.
Ugh.
And at the halftime, you couldn't drink enough to be drunk because you were so disheartened by how they played. They were just horrible.
Well,
God,
wasn't it always
horrible.
the offense, oddly enough, as great as Tarkenton was? Because I remember these were low-scoring losses, right?
Yes.
Weren't they?
Yeah. Well,
okay. So was it Tarkenton? What was it?
Tarkenton was there for a couple of them, 2 or 3 of them, and then the other guy, what's his name?
I thought Fran
Cap.
Fran wasn't in all 4 of those. I thought that he was.
Well, I think Cap was. No, Fran was in the first 3, and then I think Cap was in the last.
Interesting.
One.
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
okay.
But Tarkenton was, he was incredible, and it's just. Actually, their defense sort of caved in a little bit. Right. That purple people eaters just didn't get it done against those high, those passing offenses. They couldn't get a rush on the quarterback.
Right. I wouldn't expect them to beat the Steelers anyway. In the 70s?
Oh, God, no.
No, in the 70s? That's the best team I've ever seen. Yeah, I think it's the best team I've ever seen on both sides of the ball.
Agree.
How many Hall of Famers are we talking here?
Yeah, Terry Bradshaw. I mean, they had that defense, they had the offense. They were excellent.
Right. People who debate whether Swan and Stallworth are Hall of Famers clearly didn't see that decade. I don't know what they're missing.
I know. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
But we're Jet fans, and we never see anything. And Mike reminds me every off season that
I listen to him
every
year, Jim.
Yeah.
He tells me this is the year.
I do not.
Last year, right? So I've given up on sports. I can't even watch them anymore. It's a waste of my time. So last year he's like, the Knicks got this new head coach. They're making the playoffs.
Last year.
They make the playoffs. Now every NBA team makes it except 4 teams, and the Knicks are one over. There you go. Good coach. Good team.
Only 4 teams don't make the playoffs? That's not true.
No, they have that buy-in now, dude.
So that means that probably 18 out of 31 teams are making it now.
The buy-in is like
not
how many teams?
27 out of 31?
8 teams have a buy-in. At least 4 teams out of the race.
Then what's the point of having a regular season?
There's a buy-in
if
round.
Everybody's making it except the Knicks. That's the same thing for the last 20 years. So just get straight to the playoffs.
I am so
and leave us at home.
Don't even
suck. Anyway.
And then the world is falling apart, and the baseball players decide they're going to strike.
Yeah.
That's I want to support that.
What do you think about that?
Well, they certainly don't make enough money, I mean, it's they can't feed their families.
What? You're right.
Hey, Latrell Sprewell said that, and he never got another job in the NBA. You remember that?
God. Yeah, he was with the Timberwolves.
Yeah, he went to Timberwolves after the Knicks. Yeah. That's right. I forgot about that.
And he was like, I got a family to feed, and they were like, see you later.
Oh, my God.
Unbelievable.
I know it.
What do you think about Kyrie Irving Kyrie Irving on the Nets not getting the shot and not being able to play in Brooklyn or any?
Now he can play without a mask. They don't have to wear masks now in New York.
Right.
So
they won't let him play though. He hasn't gotten the shot. And refuses to get. Refuses. He's like, nope.
Yeah. Well.
Still probably going to get paid though. I don't know. I don't get it.
What's going on?
Yeah, I don't. I wouldn't see. I couldn't see paying him if he's not going to play.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. What do you think about Vader getting into the Hall of Fame? About time, huh?
Van Vader?
No, Vader.
Yeah.
WCW.
Yeah.
Is it Van Vader?
Yes.
I didn't realize. Yeah, they were the big.
He was Van Vader in Japan.
Yeah, big Van Vader. I got you.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, Brian and I still aren't there because.
Yeah. What's that?
It's politics. It's Vince can't stand us, and rightly so. We caught him twice, and we sued him once and won, and settled out of court, and he just
right. Is it? I guess it's
and then I see these guys they bring in there. Holy Jesus! And I thought, holy God, and I'm not going to say anything about anybody else, but I know it just kills Brian that he's not in the WWE Hall of Fame, and then you see guys who are in it 2 or 3 times and this and that, and
Right.
So, hey, I'm in a couple
Vince?
of Hall of Fames. That's okay.
Is it all Vince at the end of the day? Pretty much just whatever his whim is?
Yeah. Jeez. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the very first time, Monty. Okay. How close are we to going on? Half an hour?
Hold on. Mike.
Yeah.
Jim wants to know how close we are to going on.
We go on in. All right, I'll give you 1 minute. I'll talk to him. Hold on.
Stand by.
Okay.
Yeah, you can just chill out after that.
Are we just gonna go to the show or?
Yeah, what's his email? Give me 2 seconds, Matt. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, Jim, we don't go on till 9, so we got another 20 minutes. So if you want to chill out.
Okay.
All right.
I might just go get some water or something. But what was I going to talk to you about? Something about Vince. Oh, I imagine you guys have heard the rumor that Triple H has got a real bad heart. Needs a heart transplant.
I didn't know it was that bad. You're the first person.
No, that's what I hate.
Yeah, because you got to figure that he's got some major problems going. A heart transplant. So he must have had a massive heart attack. Then I'm assuming, right?
Well, I think it's been a series of different things, over the years. I'm sure. I don't want to speculate or anything, but I don't know him. I think I might have said 2 words to him, but I've communicated with him from emails and also writing a couple letters, and I like him. I like Hunter. He's a nice guy.
Right.
And, I can't imagine marrying into that family. My God. But I just can't, and
I could imagine.
Well, yeah, but having Vince as your father-in-law, Jesus.
Was Vince really that bad, though? Seriously.
He's horrible. Horrible.
Why?
Well, he thought he was Caesar, and he was Caesar, and he decided he would change wrestling to fit his image and likeness. And the 26 territories that he disintegrated fell by the wayside, and there was only one place to wrestle. So consequently, 60 guys were vying for, an opportunity to make the most money in the WWF, as it was called when I was there.
Sure.
So, but Vince had a whole different philosophy than any of the promoters. The promoters from all these different territories were run on a weekly and a monthly basis, where they would lead up to a series of a storyline, and it might start off, with just a good match, and then a second, these two might have a second match, and the guy interferes, and then they have a third match, and then something happens, and then the fourth match, they're having a battle, or not a battle royal, but loser leave town, and something happens, and then they have a cage match, and that's the gist of pro wrestling in terms of drawing,
right,
and telling a story in a city. Well, Vince would come in there with his superstars, who he proclaimed them, and one day you might be in LA and you'll have Hulk Hogan against who the hell, Randy Savage,
right?
And they'll have a match, and then out of the clear blue sky, the next time they come to LA, it'll be who the heck, the Hearts against somebody else, and it's the continuity wasn't there, and that's, I think, what happened was, and what Vince did is he changed the viewpoint of the average wrestling fan, and he indoctrinated a whole generation of different wrestling fans. Consequently, if you watch the WWE now,
mm-hmm.
There's no heels, there's no baby face. They all sound the same when they go on. They're all braggadocious. Nobody's got a weakness. They're going to do this, they're going to do that, and then the matches are the same, and the WAEW or whatever is the same stuff. Right.
But isn't that the fans that did that, though? Like the younger fans, they forced that kind of behavior, right?
No, it wasn't. No, they were spoon fed by by Vince McMahon. I mean, he's the one who he wanted the young kids to buy his stuff. So what does he do? He makes cartoon series, and then all of a sudden, you got Hulk Hogan making $50,000 a week in royalties on lunchboxes, T-shirts, mugs, banners, and that he was making $50,000 a week every week. And consequently, what happened was that Vince turned the whole concept of what wrestling used to be on TV to what he did, and the person who helped him the most was Ted Ebersol, who was a guy, the leader of
NBC.
I don't know
NBC.
if it was ABC,
NBC.
Wide World of Sports. NBC.
NBC.
He was a genius, and he offered the technology of the way they were shooting their programs to Vince, and that's what sold the package right there. Boom! Nobody's TV could compete with that. All of a sudden you got guys in some studio TV competing with the $200,000 production from New York. It can't be done.
Yeah, but wasn't the production always much better up here, even back when you were in the AWA? I thought the production was much better up here.
I didn't see it because it was strictly regional.
Okay, so
I mean, we never saw New York TV, just like they didn't see any AWA TV because there was no cables then.
Okay, how about during the 80s though? Did you even have time to check out cable back at home in Minnesota? I'm just curious as to what they had in Minnesota, because we had Georgia Championship Wrestling on TBS. We could see during that time period.
Yeah.
We still had UHF, and I'm sure you remember UHF. Flip over to UHF, and locally we were able to see Florida. So I got to see Gordon in the 80s. Tell you the truth, that's the first thing I saw was Gordon Soley, Florida Championship Wrestling on a UHF channel. Of all things.
Isn't that something?
It's the first time I looked at wrestling, and it was like Bugsy McGraw doing something reminding me of Curly, and being a Stooges fan, I'm like, what is this? But anyway, and we also had, believe it or not, Olympic Auditorium in Spanish. I had Spanish announcers, but I also had John Tolos and Blassie, and I would watch. I didn't care if I couldn't understand Spanish. I just was fascinated watching that product. So we had 3 that I can think of besides New York.
When I grew up, my earliest memory was in the 60s of watching Vern Gagne. And that's all we had was AWA. And then eventually we got a little bit, of Georgia wrestling when that, I don't know if it was TBS or whatever that cable was that came in.
Yeah, TBS.
And then that was about it.
Right.
And then we didn't know much, from the other territories until, Vince, just broke everything open.
Where would you put Bill Watts if you had to rank promoters? Because I really do love that Mid-South stuff. I don't know what it is. There's something about it. The early 80s.
I never worked for him.
Right.
I never worked for him.
You might be fortunate from what I hear. From what I hear.
Yeah, I heard that he was not the fairest guy.
Yeah.
I know he made millions of dollars doing that. What the hell is that company that it's a pyramid scale and they sell goods. God darn.
What is that? I know what you're talking about. I do know what you're talking about.
But he got involved right on the ground level, and he made just as much money doing that as he did wrestling and promoting. To be honest,
Jim, stand by. They're doing some strange things here. Yeah, just sit tight. Matt, what's going on? I had to take the headphones off.
This original G-Man hip-hop.
Okay.
So we're just going to test.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what's going on. All of a sudden, I'm like, well, I'm hearing multiple things going on.
Can you see us? You said you did Eric Roberts already?
They're doing Eric Roberts.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
You
look
maybe know
great.
what's going on. I think
Where is Jim?
I'm trying to.
there. I was talking to him, but then I heard them too.
Jim, you still there?
No, I turned his audio
Okay.
off.
Okay.
But he should still be there, but in the background.
All right.
Okay.
So you guys have anything?
Now just let's talk to him. Let me just make sure Jim knows. Go pee, whatever. And we're just running some other tests.
Yeah. Look, they're all. No, look, they're all on.
Oh, they're all on. Jim's
Yeah,
on there
that's
too.
what I'm trying to say. That's mine.
Okay, your phone. Okay. So I can hear them all.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Hold on. Hey, G-Man, how are you?
Hey, I'm blessed. We could have kept the conversation going about what y'all was talking about.
Hey, Jim, so we got the original G-Man of hip-hop. He's joining the network. We got a whole bunch of shows coming on. We have this, like, full channel out of Indie Music TV, and we're fortunate to have these icons on the channel. So
Great.
this is Jim Brunzell, one of the all-time great wrestlers, G-Man.
Hey, I'm a wrestling enthusiast, so I know you well.
Well, thank you. Well, I'm an old timer, so you got to be over 45.
I'll be 56 in a few weeks.
Oh my God.
Pardon?
I'll be 56 in a few weeks.
Here we go.
Well, see, good. Thank God I didn't say, 60.
Well, you know what? We're all in the same range of each other,
Yeah.
and that's good.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, when I started this hip hop culture and named it hip hop, it was back in 1975 before we put out Rapper's Delight in '79. So I go
Rapper's
back.
Delight. My
Wow.
Lord.
Rapper's Delight was
Did
awesome.
you
man.
know? Did you know when you were writing Rapper's Delight? Did you feel something special or different about that particular song? Because even I know
didn't
every
even-
word to that song, just about.
To answer your question bluntly, I didn't even know I was writing Rapper's Delight. I didn't get a chance to get the accolades. Everything was taken from me, my name, publishing, everything. So I didn't even know what I was doing, except for I was rhyming for a gorgeous lady that I never knew what a Rolls Royce or a studio was. She just had me in there rhyming, and I didn't know that they was taking everything from me. So I didn't get to enjoy that process. But God always got a way of changing things around and bringing it back to 360 degrees.
Right.
So then I came back years later, and she didn't know who I was because I wasn't an 11-year-old kid anymore. I was grown, and I signed to her son, Joey Robinson Jr., so I can get in there and get evidence to get my stuff back. But I had an epiphany from God saying that that's not why I gave you this vision of this thing called hip hop before it became a terminology. When I came up with the terminology, hip because we were so popular doing all the aspects of the culture. The older heads used to say you brothers is hip, and hop and the hop came from because we used to have to sneak on the trains in New York City and hop over the turnstiles while the police wasn't looking. So,
Oh my God, that's great.
How do we sound, G-Man? Can you hear us well?
yeah, man, y'all sound very, very clear.
Yeah,
I took
so
a hiatus for a while from the music game, and I was a bodyguard, so I got to protect kind of a lot of the wrestling fans, especially the WWE guys.
Okay.
So I was like,
Who's your favorite wrestler growing up? Say Jim Brunzell.
No.
He had his time. He had his time. He had his moments. You know what I mean? He had his moments. But I gotta say, as a young kid coming up, I kind of like Bruno Sammartino.
Wow.
You know what I
Nice.
mean? I was kind of, you know what I mean? I actually was at his last match before he retired in Brendan Bear Arena.
Wow. What'd you think of Superstar Billy Graham in his prime? Were you hating on him when he was taking the belt from Bruno, that nefarious fiend?
It was exciting to me. I didn't hate. The only rapper only wrestler that I really just dislike. It was the modern day rappers. I keep saying rappers, the modern day wrestlers, because it became more entertainment than in Hollywood. When it should have been just sports. You know what I mean? And I love the sports aspect of it. So I don't want to call no one person out. I don't do that.
Right. But the whole Hulkamania, WrestleMania thing you weren't exactly fond of, is that fair? Or
it's fair to say because everybody already thought it was animated and it was too rehearsed. But when they brought that perspective in it, it really put a lot of doubt in people's mind. It took like somebody that came and told you Santa Claus ain't real and you 8 years old. You know what I mean?
Jim, does Vince McMahon have it right or wrong with the entertainment, the E in entertainment? Is it just way too too much, or
Well, you know why? You know why he did that, Monty? He did that so he wouldn't have to pay the state tax at the athletic commission that
right,
was in
Wow.
the state of New
right,
York.
right.
He came out and said it was entertainment,
Okay,
and
okay. Is that an act of brilliance or an act of cheapness or a combination of the two?
Combination.
I'd say
Because he's successful.
combination.
That's the only tour that goes all 24. I mean, 365 days a year. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Have either of you come across anybody like, in that kind of level of power in either one of your businesses that is not such a shark, someone decent? Jim, do you come across any decent promoters that were actually decent human beings?
Tell the truth.
Well, to be honest with you, see, I mean, wrestling promotion is cemented in greed and deceit.
Yeah.
So they use those two to benefit themselves at the cost of anything else. So, I met a couple of guys that I thought were good, but they weren't the big time, promoters. I mean, most of the promoters, they were out to make as much money as possible, and they were, jealous of their fellow promoter because they thought they should have gotten this and they should have gotten that, and I was a better wrestler when I was in college, this and that, and they hold these old, you know, these old grudges, 20, 30 years.
Right. Same in the music biz. I've always felt music and pro wrestling somehow have a very interesting parallel to each other.
It's all entertainment. First of all, entertainment is supposed to be fun. When you depict your violence in anything that is supposed to be fun, there's gonna always be you now turn my house into a den of thieves syndrome. You're gonna always have the Don King syndrome when it comes to promoters. Because if you notice, when I say Don King syndrome, you see he'll come in with the champ. If that champ lose, he'll walk out with the new champ.
Yep.
You see, what I mean, that type of no
Yep.
goodness, if you will.
Yep.
So, but when it comes to wrestling, with me, I look at the sport perspective because I like the way they was athletically inclined because they was doing some things that you just wouldn't fathom that a person should be doing, diving through tables, getting flipped in it. So it took a lot of courage. So I respected the wrestlers because of what their fortitude and I really loved the way that they choreographed their moves. But I just didn't like the promoters per se, whether it's wrestling, because I knew some of the top dogs. And with me being who I am in the industry, people call you an icon, a legend. So it allows you to get indoors that most people can't get into, sit with people that normally don't get to sit with, and being a professional bodyguard, trained by the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. It also opens up doors for me to be in places and see things and know things that other people ain't privy to. So, but them promoters are just about the money. They're just about the money, and it's a business, and you can't knock nobody for their business because that's what they're doing. And the ones that do it the best or the worst per se is the ones that get the most money.
Right. Jim, who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
Oh, geez. Well, my mom and dad, my dad was a Navy man. He was a pilot, and we traveled all over the country. And I actually lived in the Marshall Islands for a year when I was 7 years old in a place called Kwajalein. But my dad wouldn't let me watch it, but I watched it down in Memphis, Tennessee, and they had a heel down there called Sputnik Monroe.
I've heard of him.
And they had a babyface by the name of Billy Wicks. And I watched it because my dad was gone quite a bit. So I'd watch it. It was on a Saturday afternoon at 5 o'clock or 5:30. So I got familiar with that.
All right, G, we're going live in about
Jim.
5 minutes. Jim, do you have to go to the bathroom at all before we go on?
Yeah, I will.
What?
Sure.
All right.
Thanks, Pharaoh.
Happy wiping?
All right, guys.
What
G, I'll talk to you soon.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
It's a pleasure, bro.
All right, you too, buddy. We'll talk again, but the audio and the visual is okay.
Awesome.
I know
Looks
I got to do
great.
some adjustments around, but just wanted to make sure,
Yeah,
you know what I
looks
mean?
good.
Looks
Awesome.
great.
Okay.
All right, have a blessed day, bro.
All right, God bless.
You too, bro. Do you have to go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Been talking for like an hour.